If you're one of those people who paid a huge dealer markup on a Bronco, or maybe you just work for Jeep, well, I've got some bad news, friends. This is the 2022 Ford Bronco Raptor, and it looks fierce. As it turns out, Ford's thrown in everything but the kitchen sink here. In fact, I might be wrong about that. There's probably one of those stainless jobs out back. Look, there's a ton to cover here, so breathe deep and let's dig in.
Let's get this out of the way right now. This isn't a kinda sorta upgraded model. The Bronco team hasn't just slapped on some new shocks, 37s, and wider flares on a wild track and headed for beers. Nope. They've left no stone unturned, so there's no stone you can't climb over, or maybe more precisely, fly over.
Let's start with the outside because it'll tell us a lot about what lurks underneath. For one, this rig is seriously wide. How wide? Well, this chewing can tobacco is 0.9 inches tall, and that represents the difference between a full-size F-150 Raptor pickup and this truck. That's right, it's barely any narrower than its F-150 big brother, yet it's about 40 inches shorter overall, and it's nearly as tall. That means that this Bronco looks almost cartoonishly proportioned in the best possible way, like a Tonka truck that's come to life.
Ford says track widths are up by over 8.5 inches versus a base Bronco, and you'll find 37-inch BF Goodrich KO2s at all four corners, mounted on 8.5-inch wide, 17-inch beadlock capable wheels. Park some bigger flares over those pumped up kicks to keep things nice and legal, and you're looking at a truck that's 85.7 inches wide with the mirrors folded. That is 9.8 inches wider than a base Bronco and nearly a foot wider than a Jeep Wrangler Rubicon.
As you can see, the Raptor towers over me. Sorry, pedestrians. It's 77.8 inches tall, about 2.5 inches taller than a Wildtrak, the tallest Bronco that you can currently buy. And it's fewer than 3 inches shorter than an F-150 Raptor.
That height difference is all tires and suspension. New control arms help deliver 13 inches of travel up front and 14 inches out back. That's 60% more front travel and 40% more rear travel than a base Bronco. I'd tell you how that compares to the best the Wrangler can do, but Jeep officials declined to share numbers with me. That said, what we don't have here yet are arrival, departure, and breakover angles, so we're gonna have to sit tight.
Raptor suspension is totally different, with new shock towers, control arms, and bigger Fox internal bypass adaptive dampers. These guys are 3.1 inches around, and the rear ones, well, they get remote reservoirs for better thermal management. The steering system gets upgraded as well with larger tie rod ends and a new rack housing that's similar to that of the F-150 Raptor. Plus, there's loads of underbody plates to keep it all safe.
Now, more than rock crawling, this thing is designed to go pounding through the desert at highway speed for hours at a time, just like Ford's Ultra 4 rigs and its DR turnkey customer race truck. So only upgrading the suspension and the steering, well, that just wouldn't do. Ford has gone and added frame-level reinforcements, and unlike other Broncos, the Raptor gets a crossbar that bridges the B pillars together, as well as reinforcements to the C pillars. The trade-off will be a less open feeling when the hardtop is off, but the upshot is torsional rigidity has increased by over 50%, and I'm here to tell you that the regular Bronco felt plenty stout.
Right about now, you're probably wondering if this thing is powered by a small nuclear reactor. Not exactly. Now, if you've been hoping for a V8, well, it ain't happening, friends. The Raptor uses a version of Ford's 3-liter EcoBoost twin-turbo V6, not the 3.5 out of the F-150 Raptor that was previously rumored. Sadly, Ford is not releasing any performance numbers just yet, other than to say that they're aiming for 400 horses.
That shouldn't be too hard considering that's exactly the power output of this engine in Ford's Explorer ST and the Lincoln Aviator. If anything, Ford will probably tune this SUV's power delivery to be even snarlier. That seems especially likely since this truck gets a switchable multi-mode exhaust with lower restriction and a Wake the Neighbors Baja mode, just like the F-150 Raptor. Those other SUVs I mentioned make 415 pound-feet of torque, by the way. My bet is that the Blue Oval will push for a higher number, especially since they've upgraded the intercooling and air induction. Plus, there's a muscular new hood made out of sheet mold compound that offers additional venting. No surprise, Ford's Select Shift 10-speed automatic is mandatory, but you do get these neat magnesium paddle shifters, which fixes one of my biggest gripes about other Bronco models, that annoyingly cheap plus-minus rocker on the gear shift lever. All the rotating bits that get power to the ground have been upgraded as well. There are beefier drive shafts, and out back there's a semi-floating Dana 50 Advantech with a 235mm ring gear, and a Dana 44 up front with upgraded half shafts and a 210mm ring gear. A heavier duty clutch and transfer case are part of the package, including a 67.7:1 crawl ratio. Between those driveline updates and the stouter structure, the Raptor can tow up to 4,500 pounds, which goes a long way toward addressing one of my other gripes about the Bronco. That's 1,000 additional pounds of capacity, plus there's a new tow haul mode to make the most out of it. Fortunately, larger brakes borrowed from the F-150 Raptor should help you whether you're maxing out that tow rating or just channeling your inner Vaughn Gittin Jr. As you'd expect, you get a full arsenal of electronic trickery with no fewer than 7 GOAT modes, including a revised Baja mode for wide open shenanigans. You also get trail control, which is off-road cruise control, trail one-pedal driving, and trail turn assist on these buttons up here, and those should be extra helpful when negotiating winding, narrow passages, considering how wide this truck actually is. The cabin upgrades are pretty much what you'd expect. You'll find more supportive Raptor-specific seats clad in marine green vinyl, along with washable rubberized floors and code orange accents all over the place, mixed in with a few carbon fiber accents. An optional premium trim like this truck includes seats trimmed in leather and faux suede along with a wrapped dash top. You can even opt for orange seat belts. And all Raptors, well, they come with a 12-inch touchscreen running Sync 4 and 360-degree camera coverage. Plus, you can splurge on the Luxe Pack with B&O audio and adaptive cruise.
Okay, so what are the downsides? Well, aside from not having full performance specs and pricing information, not a whole lot. Ford seems to have thought about just about everything, and this Raptor looks seriously impressive. Okay, so this truck is not going to sound as good as it would have with a V8. And undoubtedly, it's still going to be a reprehensibly thirsty vehicle because the standard Bronco is already a heavy drinker. Remember, this thing has got to be a lot heavier, and the only way it could be less aerodynamic is with a middle finger hood ornament.
The bigger issue that might just be the Raptor's kryptonite is also what gives this SUV its superpowers: its size, especially its width. This Raptor is big enough that it won't be at home in all environments, including tight trails and tight city streets or garages. Now that's especially true since the Raptor will only be sold as a 4-door. And that last part, well, it bums me out because I'm partial to the 2-door.
Now, as long as this vehicle has decent range between fill-ups, I don't think the target audience is going to care one way or the other. They're just going to want to get their trucks when they arrive in dealers this summer and get out into the wilderness as soon as possible.